From the very dawn of human settlement, the Japanese islands have stood as both a sanctuary and a challenge, a land shaped by mountains, volcanoes, and the ever-shifting seas. The earliest traces of human life in Japan date back tens of thousands of years, to a time when the islands were still connected to the Asian continent. Hunter-gatherers roamed the forests, surviving on what the land and sea provided. These were the Jōmon people, whose name comes from the cord marked. Pottery they left behind, some of the oldest in the world. Their villages, though primitive by later standards, were rich in culture. They hunted deer and boar, fished along the coast, and created small clay figurines, perhaps symbols of fertility or spirits of the earth. As time passed, new waves of migrants arrived from the Asian mainland, bringing new technologies, new crops, and new ways of life. Around 300 BC, the Yayoi period began, marking one of the most significant transitions in Japanese history. With the Yayoi came rice cultivation, a revolutionary change that transformed the islands. Villages became more stable, populations grew, and social hierarchies began to emerge. Iron and bronze tools replaced stone, and the first signs of organized political power appeared. It was a time when small clans, each led by a chief, began to compete for dominance. From these early rivalries emerged the foundations of what would become the Japanese state. The Kofun period, beginning around the 3rd century CE, was named for the massive burial mounds, kofun, constructed for powerful leaders. These tombs, some shaped like keyholes when seen from above, spoke of wealth, hierarchy, and growing central authority. It was during this time that the Yamato clan, based near modern Nara, began to unify much of the archipelago under their rule. Their influence spread, supported by alliances and warfare, and soon the concept of an emperor, a divine ruler descended from the gods, began to take shape. The roots of Japan's imperial line are entwined with mythology. According to ancient chronicles such as the Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki, the Japanese imperial family traces its lineage to the sun goddess Amaterasu. Her descendant, Emperor Jimmu, is said to have founded Japan around 660 BC, a date celebrated in legend more than history. Yet this mythological foundation gave Japan's rulers a sacred legitimacy that would endure for millennia. By the 6th century, Japan was looking outward, especially toward the Korean peninsula and China. Through Korea, Buddhism arrived, bringing not only new spiritual ideas but also art, writing, and political philosophy. The Japanese court eagerly absorbed Chinese culture, its characters, its architecture, and its bureaucratic systems. The capital of Nara, established in the 8th century, was modeled after the great Chinese city of Chang'an. The result was a blossoming of art and learning, a fusion of native Shinto beliefs, and imported Buddhist ideals that gave birth to a unique Japanese identity. During the Heian period, beginning in 794 when the capital moved to Heian-kyō, modern Kyoto, Japan entered an age of refinement and courtly elegance. The aristocracy, especially the powerful Fujiwara clan, dominated politics, while the emperor remained a spiritual figurehead. Life at court revolved around poetry, aesthetics, and the pursuit of beauty. Women like Murasaki Shikibu wrote masterpieces such as The Tale of Genji, considered the world's first novel, a window into the subtle intrigues and emotions of aristocratic life. Yet beneath this elegant surface, the power of the imperial court began to weaken as local warriors. The samurai rose to prominence in the provinces. By the late 12th century, Japan's political landscape shifted dramatically. The Genpei War, a brutal conflict between the Terra and Minamoto clans, culminated in the establishment of the Kamakura shogunate in 1192. With Minamoto no Yoritomo as shogun, real power moved away from the imperial court and into the hands of the military government. Japan became a feudal society, ruled by warriors who valued loyalty, discipline, and martial skill above all. The samurai class was born, embodying the code of Bushido, the way of the warrior, which emphasized honor, courage, and duty unto death. During the Kamakura period, Japan faced one of its greatest external threats, the Mongol invasions. In 1002, 174, and again in 1002, 181, Kublai Khan's fleets attempted to conquer the islands. Both times, fierce Japanese resistance and violent typhoons, later called kamikaze, or divine winds, destroyed the invaders. These miraculous defenses reinforced the belief that Japan was a land protected by the gods. Yet the cost of war strained the shogunate, and unrest among unpaid samurai eventually led to its downfall. The following centuries were marked by chaos and division. The Ashikaga shogunate, which succeeded Kamakura, was weaker and plagued by internal conflict. The Onin War 1467-1477 plunged the country into a century-long period of civil war known as the Sengoku, or Warring States, era. Japan fractured into countless domains, ruled by competing warlords, daimyo, each struggling for supremacy. Cities burned, alliances shifted, and the land descended into near anarchy. Yet it was in this time of bloodshed that some of Japan's most legendary figures emerged. Oda Nobunaga, who began unifying the nation through ruthless force, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who completed much of that unification through diplomacy and conquest, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, who would finally bring lasting peace. In 1603, Tokugawa Ieyasu established the Tokugawa shogunate, ruling from Edo, modern Tokyo. His government imposed strict control over the daimyo and enforced a rigid social order. The emperor remained a figurehead in Kyoto, while the shogun wielded real authority. Japan entered more than 2 centuries of peace known as the Edo period. The country closed itself off from most of the world under the policy of Sakoku, allowing only limited trade through the Dutch and Chinese at Nagasaki. Within this isolation, Japanese culture flourished. Urban centers like Edo, Osaka, and Kyoto became vibrant hubs of commerce and art. The tea ceremony, kabuki theater, and ukiyo, ye woodblock prints, captured the spirit of the age, a blend of simplicity, sensuality, and discipline. This peace came at a cost. The rigid hierarchy limited social mobility, and curiosity about the outside world simmered beneath the surface. When American Commodore Matthew Perry's black ships arrived in 1853, demanding that Japan open its ports to foreign trade, the country could no longer remain isolated. The shock of Western technology and military might force the Tokugawa regime into crisis. Within 15 years, the shogunate collapsed, and the Meiji Restoration of 168 restored power to the emperor, now as a symbol of a new, modern Japan. The Meiji era was one of breathtaking transformation. Determined not to be colonized by Western powers, Japan embarked on a rapid program of modernization and industrialization. Railroads, factories, and a modern army replaced the feudal order. Students were sent abroad to learn science, engineering, and governance, while foreign experts came to Japan to teach. The nation adopted Western dress, architecture, and education, but retained a deep respect for its traditions. The slogan of the era, "Enrich the country," strengthened the military, captured Japan's ambition to join the ranks of the world's great powers. By the early 20th century, Japan had achieved that goal. Victories in the Sino-Japanese War 1008, 194, 1008, 195, and the Russo-Japanese War 1904, 1905 shocked the world, proving that an Asian nation could defeat Western powers. Japan gained colonies in Korea and Taiwan and began to expand its influence across East Asia. Yet this growing empire brought both pride and peril. Nationalism intensified, and the military's influence grew unchecked. During the 1930s, Japan's expansion into China and the Pacific led to international condemnation and, eventually, war with the Western world. World War II marked both the height and the catastrophe of Japan's imperial ambition. The attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 drew the United States into the war. For 4 brutal years, Japan fought across the Pacific, conquering vast territories but suffering devastating losses. Cities were bombed, soldiers died by the millions, and the people endured starvation and fear. In August 1945, the unimaginable occurred, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation was beyond comprehension. Japan surrendered shortly after, marking the end of its empire and the beginning of its rebirth. Under Allied occupation, Japan was transformed once again. The wartime government was dismantled, a new constitution established democracy, and the emperor renounced his divine status. The nation turned away from militarism and toward peace, industry, and innovation. With American aid and the determination of its people, Japan rebuilt from the ashes. By the 1960s, it had risen as an economic miracle. Its factories producing cars, electronics, and technology that would soon dominate global markets. Cities like Tokyo and Osaka became symbols of modernity, blending neon lights with centuries-old temples. Yet Japan's success was not without challenges. The rapid pace of industrialization strained the environment and traditional values. The bursting of the economic bubble in the early 1990s led to decades of stagnation known as the lost decades. Still, Japan endured, adapting, reflecting, and reinventing itself, as it had so many times before. Today, Japan stands as a paradox of modern civilization, a place where the ancient and futuristic coexist seamlessly. Bullet trains glide past centuries-old shrines, robots serve sushi beside priests offering prayers, and amid the chaos of modern life, the Japanese spirit of harmony continues to define the nation's soul. From the Jōmon potters to the engineers of today's Shinkansen, Japan's story is one of continuity through change, a journey shaped by nature, conflict, and an unyielding pursuit of balance. The entire history of Japan is not merely a timeline of wars and rulers, but a living testament to transformation. It is a story that teaches us that destruction can give birth to renewal, that isolation can inspire creativity, and that a nation's greatest strength lies not in conquest, but in its ability to adapt and endure. Japan, an island nation once closed to the world, has become one of its guiding lights, proving that the past, when respected and understood, can be the foundation for a boundless future. History of Japan is a story of resilience, a nation that has repeatedly rebuilt itself from isolation, war, and natural disaster, emerging stronger each time. From its earliest days, Japan has lived in constant dialogue with the forces of nature and history. Its islands, forged by volcanic fire and surrounded by unpredictable seas, have both protected and isolated its people. Yet from this isolation came a unique strength, an ability to adapt, absorb, and transform. Time and again, Japan has faced devastation, from earthquakes and tsunamis that leveled cities, to wars that tore apart its social fabric, to foreign invasions that threatened its sovereignty. And each time it rose again. Resilience in Japan is not merely survival, it is reinvention. When the samurai age collapsed, Japan forged a new social order. When the black ships of the West arrived, the country turned crisis into modernization. When its cities lay in ruins after World War II, it rebuilt into one of the most advanced economies on Earth. This cycle of destruction and rebirth has defined the Japanese spirit, a quiet strength rooted in perseverance, discipline, and a profound respect for both tradition and progress. In every chapter of Japan's past, one can feel the heartbeat of a nation that refuses to surrender to despair. Whether through art, technology, or culture, Japan transforms hardship into beauty, adversity into opportunity. Its people have learned that the path forward is not to escape change, but to harmonize with it. Much like the cherry blossoms that bloom gloriously, fall gracefully, and return with the seasons. This is the essence of Japan's story, not one of unbroken triumph, but of unbreakable endurance. A civilization shaped by struggle, defined by its response to it, and admired for the grace with which it rebuilds. Japan's transformation from feudal isolation to a global powerhouse illustrates how culture, innovation, and discipline can redefine a nation's destiny. For centuries, Japan existed as a closed world, a collection of feudal domains ruled by samurai, guided by strict hierarchies, and bound by tradition. The country's isolation under the Tokugawa shogunate kept it shielded from foreign influence, preserving its unique culture but also limiting its awareness of the rapidly changing world beyond its shores. Yet when the tides of history shifted, Japan did not resist transformation. It embraced it with extraordinary purpose. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 marked not just a political revolution, but a complete rebirth of national identity. In a few short decades, Japan moved from sword to steel, from wooden ships to warships, from handwritten scrolls to industrial printing presses. What took other nations centuries to achieve, Japan accomplished within a generation, guided by discipline, collective will, and an insatiable hunger to learn. The same samurai spirit that once ruled the battlefield was redirected toward education, industry, and science. The warrior's code of honor became the worker's code of excellence. Yet Japan's rise was not merely technological, it was cultural. It fused the wisdom of its ancient traditions with the innovation of the modern world. From Zen simplicity to cutting, edge engineering, from calligraphy to robotics, Japan's genius lies in its ability to blend the old with the new, harmony with progress. Its journey proves that modernization need not mean the abandonment of heritage. Rather, it can be the evolution of it. Today, Japan stands as a testament to what discipline and vision can achieve. It is a nation that transformed from isolation into influence, from feudalism into futurism. Its story reminds the world that greatness is not inherited, it is built, refined, and earned through perseverance, unity, and the courage to reinvent oneself while staying true to one's soul. Understanding Japan's past is not just about emperors and wars, but about the timeless spirit of its people, a society that harmonizes ancient tradition with modern ambition. Behind every historic event and imperial decree lies the quiet endurance of the Japanese people, who have carried their culture forward through centuries of change. Their story is not written only in chronicles of conquests or the rise and fall of rulers, but in the daily rhythm of life, in the tea ceremonies that teach patience, in the art that celebrates impermanence, and in the craftsmanship that transforms labor into beauty. What truly defines Japan is its ability to balance opposites, to move fearlessly into the future while holding fast to the wisdom of the past. In a world that often chooses between progress and preservation, Japan chooses both. Its skyscrapers rise beside ancient shrines. Its technology coexists with traditions centuries old. The same spirit that guided samurai through feudal wars now drives engineers designing bullet trains and robots. The discipline that once shaped calligraphy now shapes innovation, and the harmony once found in gardens and temples now guides Japan's approach to modern life. This harmony is no accident. It is a reflection of wa, the Japanese ideal of balance and unity. It is a value that runs through every part of society, teaching that strength lies not in domination but in cooperation, not in rejecting change but in mastering it. Through earthquakes, wars, and social upheavals, the Japanese people have proven that identity is not lost through adaptation, it is deepened by it. To understand Japan, then, is to understand resilience expressed through grace. It is to see how a nation can modernize without losing its soul, how ambition can coexist with humility, and how progress can walk hand in hand with peace. Japan's history is not merely a timeline of power, but a testament to the enduring harmony between the heart of its past and the vision of its future.